Remember when music didn't take itself so seriously? The 1970s gave us some of the most unexpected chart toppers in history. Songs that started as laughs, parodies, or pure silliness somehow captured the hearts of millions worldwide. These weren't your typical love ballads or protest anthems. Today we're counting down 10 joke songs from the 1970s that turned into global hits. Number 10. Ernie, the Fastest Milkman in the West, by Benny Hill.
And he drove the fastest milk car in the West.
British comedian Benny Hill wasn't just funny on television. In 1971, he took a comical story about a milkman and turned it into the Christmas #1 in the UK. The song told the tale of Ernie, a milkman racing his horse-drawn cart through suburban streets, competing for the affections of a widow named Sue against his rival, 2-Ton Ted, the bread man from Teddington.
Ernie rushed out into the street, his gold top in his hand. He said, if you want to marry...
Hill had actually worked as a milkman himself back in Eastleigh, Hampshire, driving a horse-drawn cart in his younger years. Those early morning deliveries, starting before dawn with bottles clinking in wooden crates, gave him first-hand knowledge of the milkman's world. That real-life experience brought authenticity to every verse, even as he played the whole thing for maximum comedy.
Now, Ernie had a rival, an evil-looking man called 2-Ton Ted.
The music video was genuinely ahead of its time. Hill used simple camera tricks, speeding up the film to make Ernie's horse-drawn cart look like it was traveling at Formula One speeds through quiet housing estates. Viewers loved watching the cart zip past startled pedestrians, while Hill delivered his deadpan narration in the style of a Western showdown. The climactic battle between Ernie and 2-Ton Ted, fought with stale bread rolls and fresh cream pies, became instant comedy gold.
Now Sushi ran between them and tried to keep them apart, and Ernie...
The song captured the top spot over Christmas 1971, keeping the much trendier T-Rex and their single at number 2. Not bad for a 47-year-old comedian singing about milk deliveries and romantic rivalry. The success proved that British audiences still had plenty of room for old-fashioned music hall comedy even as glam rock and disco were taking over. Benny Hill became an unlikely pop star, recording the track at the legendary Abbey Road Studios, the same hallowed ground where the Beatles had created their masterpieces just a few years before.
Oh, why don't we play cards for her, he sneeringly replied, and just to make it...
Number 9. My Ding-a-Ling by Chuck Berry. Chuck Berry was already a rock and roll legend by 1972. He'd written and performed classics like Johnny B. Good, Roll Over Beethoven, and Maybelline. So when his first and only #1 hit on the Billboard Hot 100 turned out to be a suggestive novelty song about a childhood toy, it surprised just about everyone in the music industry.
Catch me playing with my ding-a-ling-a-ling, oh.
Berry recorded the song live at the Lanchester Arts Festival in Coventry, England in February 1972. The crowd participated enthusiastically, with Berry dividing them up so the men sang one part and the women sang another in call and response style. That live energy, complete with the audience clapping along and laughing at the innuendo, translated perfectly to radio playback. The raw excitement of being there came through in every second of the recording. Many radio stations refused to play the song because of its barely disguised double meanings. Some activists even tried to get it banned. But the controversy only made people more curious. The song was actually written by New Orleans producer Dave Bartholomew, way back in 1952. But Berry transformed it with his cheeky live performance and encouraged audience participation. The recording knocked Michael Jackson's Ben off the top spot in October 1972 and held the #1 position for 2 weeks. Berry later said he had absolutely no problem with a novelty song being his biggest commercial hit. His philosophy was refreshingly simple and business-minded. Give people what they want. If audiences wanted to sing about ding-a-lings at concerts, Berry was happy to oblige. The song gave him his long-awaited #1, even if it wasn't quite the rock and roll anthem many had expected from the pioneering guitar hero.
But held on to my ding-a-ling-a-ling, oh.
Number 8. The Streak by Ray Stevens.
Yes, they call him the Streak.
Early 1974 saw a peculiar fad sweep across America and Britain: streaking. Suddenly, people were running naked through public events, shopping centers, sporting matches, and college campuses. Ray Stevens saw comedy gold in the chaos. He wrote The Streak after reading a magazine article about the growing phenomenon while sitting on an airplane, scribbling down ideas as fast as they came to him.
There's an audience to be found, you'll be streaking around.
The song featured Stevens playing multiple characters with different voices, including a news reporter doing man-on-the-street interviews, and a befuddled husband desperately trying to shield his wife Ethel's innocent eyes from the nude runners. His repeated, increasingly frantic cry of "Don't look," Ethel became instantly quotable in households across the country. Kids shouted it at school. Adults used it as a punchline at dinner parties.
Oh, yes, they call him the streak.
The timing was absolutely perfect. Less than 2 weeks after Stevens released the song, a streaker actually ran across the stage at the Academy Awards, racing right behind host David Niven during the live broadcast. The elegant Niven handled it with characteristic British cool, but the incident gave Stevens' song even more publicity and relevance. Suddenly, everyone was talking about streaking, and The Streak was the unofficial soundtrack. The song spent 3 weeks at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in May 1974. It also topped the UK charts and sold well over 5 million copies worldwide. Stevens had always mixed humor with music throughout his career, scoring previous novelty hits like Ahab the Arab and Guitarzan. But The Streak became his signature recording, the song people remembered decades later. It proved that sometimes the silliest ideas, when executed with perfect comic timing, connect with the most people. Stevens captured a genuine cultural moment, and audiences rewarded him by making it one of the biggest hits of the year.
Yes, they call him the streak.
Number 7. Spiders and Snakes by Jim Stafford.
I don't like spiders and snakes and frogs, and that ain't what it.
Jim Stafford had a natural gift for storytelling songs delivered with easygoing Southern charm. Spiders and Snakes showcased that talent perfectly. Released in late 1973, the song peaked at number 3 in early 1974 and spent an impressive 23 weeks on the Billboard Hot 100, becoming one of the year's biggest hits.
I don't like spiders and snakes, and that ain't what it takes.
The song told the simple story of a young man trying to impress a girl named Meri by showing her frogs, spiders, and snakes he found down by the swimming hole. Meri makes it crystal clear that creepy crawlies aren't exactly the way to win her heart. She wants romance, not reptiles. The message was delivered with humor and a catchy chorus that people couldn't stop singing.
I don't like spiders and snakes, and that ain't what it.
Stafford's delivery was key to the song's success. The verses were spoken rather than sung, giving it an intimate, conversational feel that drew listeners in. It felt like Stafford was sitting on your porch telling you a story from his youth. Then the chorus would kick in with full instrumentation and that memorable hook about spiders and snakes.
That gal from time to time, and I call her up when I got a dime.
Stafford co-wrote the song with David Bellamy, who would later find considerable fame as half of the Bellamy Brothers, with hits like Let Your Love Flow. The autobiographical lyrics came from Bellamy's rural childhood in Darby, Florida, where showing girls you liked them with gifts from nature was perfectly normal behavior, even if it didn't always work out.
I was shy and so for a while. Most of my love was touching.
The track sold over 1 million copies and earned Stafford a gold record in March 1974. It captured a slice of rural American life with humor and genuine warmth, and radio programmers couldn't get enough of it. Stafford followed it up with more novelty hits that same year, but Spiders and Snakes remained his most beloved song, the one that launched his brief but memorable career as a chart-topping artist.
I don't like spiders and snakes and frogs, and that ain't what it.
Number 6. Wildwood Weed by Jim Stafford.
The same with the Wildwood Weed. One day a fella from Washington come by and he spat.
Jim Stafford struck comedy gold twice in 1974. While Spiders and Snakes was still riding high on the charts, he released Wildwood Weed. another spoken word novelty that climbed all the way to number 7 on the Billboard Hot 100. The song was actually a cover of a 1964 track by Don Bowman, but Stafford's version made it a household name. The song told the amusing tale of two farmers who discover a mysterious plant growing wild on their land. After one of them chews on a piece of it out of curiosity and experiences some distinctly unusual effects, they quickly realize they've stumbled onto something special. Being enterprising gentlemen, they begin cultivating the plant with great enthusiasm and dedication. Their agricultural venture continues successfully until federal agents arrive to destroy their entire crop. The brothers just smile and wave at the departing agents, sitting peacefully on a large sack of seeds they'd wisely hidden away.
Looked around for me everywhere and finally caught up with myself in open pasture land, laying flat on my back with...
The marijuana references were thinly veiled at best, but delivered with such innocent, good-natured charm that the song sailed past censors and became a massive mainstream hit. It showed that America, in 1974, could laugh at itself and its rapidly changing attitudes about various social issues. Stafford's deadpan, A.W. Shucks delivery made the whole thing work beautifully, turning what could have been preachy or controversial into pure entertainment that offended virtually no one. The song spent over 4 months on the charts, proving that Stafford wasn't just a one-hit wonder, but a genuine comedy music phenomenon. His ability to tell these rural American stories with perfect timing and a twinkle in his eye made him one of the most successful novelty artists of the decade. He even hosted his own variety show in 1975, capitalizing on his sudden fame as America's favorite musical storyteller.
And he dug and he burned and he burned and he dug until it killed all our cute little weeds.
Number 5. Convoy by C.W. McCall. The CB radio craze of the mid-1970s needed an anthem, and C.W. McCall delivered exactly what truckers and wannabe truckers across America were looking for. Convoy wasn't just a song, it was a cultural phenomenon that captured the nation's fascination with 18-wheelers, citizens band radios, the open highway, and the freedom of the road. Released in late 1975, the song featured McCall speaking almost entirely in trucker slang over a driving country rock backing track. The story followed a convoy of trucks led by the legendary Rubber Duck as they rolled across the American landscape, crashing through toll booths and skillfully evading the local police, who were called Smokies or Bears. By the time the convoy reached Chicago, it had supposedly grown to over 1,000 vehicles strong, including 11 long-haired Friends of Jesus in a chartreuse microbus. The fascinating thing about C.W. McCall was that he wasn't even a real person. He was a character originally created by advertising executive Bill Fries and musician Chip Davis for a series of old home bread commercials. The fictional character resonated so powerfully with audiences that Fries decided to keep him going, developing a full musical career around this trucker persona. Chip Davis would later go on to found Mannheim Steamroller and become famous for Christmas music. Convoy hit number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in January 1976 and stayed on the charts for an impressive 16 weeks total. The song sparked a massive nationwide CB radio boom, with millions of Americans rushing out to buy the radios so they could talk like truckers and use handles like Rubber Duck, Pigpen, and Cottonmouth. The CB radio industry became worth hundreds of millions of dollars practically overnight. The song even inspired a big-budget 1978 movie directed by Sam Peckinpah and starring Chris Christopherson, Ali MacGraw, and Ernest Borgnine. While the trucker fad eventually faded, Convoy remains the defining song of that unique moment in American pop culture when everyone wanted to tend for their good buddy. Number 4. Disco Duck by Rick Dees. October 1976 brought one of the strangest number 1 hits in chart history. Disco Duck featured Memphis DJ Rick Dees, alongside a Donald Duck-style voice singing about a man who mysteriously transforms into a disco-dancing duck at parties. The whole concept was wonderfully absurd from start to finish. Dees wrote the song as an outright parody of the disco craze that had overtaken dance floors, fashion, and radio playlists everywhere. Interestingly enough, Dees himself didn't perform the famous duck voice that became the song's trademark. He hired a guy he happened to meet at his local gym, Kenneth Pruitt, to handle all the quacking vocals. Pruitt nailed the Donald Duck impression perfectly, making the song simultaneously annoying and impossible to forget.
Look at me, I'm the disco duck.
The song was deliberately silly, ridiculously catchy, and completely impossible to ignore once you heard it. Radio programmers initially resisted it, thinking it was too stupid to succeed. They were spectacularly wrong. The public couldn't get enough of the disco duck waddling around the dance floor. The timing proved particularly unfortunate for Dees on a personal level. His radio station management wouldn't let him play his own song on the air, citing FCC regulations about conflict of interest. When he merely mentioned during his morning show that Disco Duck might hit #1 that week, station bosses fired him on the spot. Just 5 days later, the song reached the top of the Billboard Hot 100, vindicating Dees completely. Dees had the last laugh in multiple ways. The song sold over 4 million copies, making him wealthy. A rival radio station immediately hired him. The track even appeared briefly in the blockbuster movie Saturday Night Fever, though Dees turned down the opportunity to have it on the phenomenally successful soundtrack album. That decision probably cost him millions more, but he was already doing fine. The song earned Dees a People's Choice Award and launched his long broadcasting career. He went on to host radio countdown shows for decades, becoming one of the most successful DJs in America. All thanks to a duck who disco danced. Number 3. A Fifth of Beethoven by Walter Murphy. What happens when you take Ludwig van Beethoven's Fifth Symphony and give it a pulsing disco beat? You get a #1 hit, apparently. Walter Murphy was just a 23-year-old pianist and arranger when he had the brilliant idea to update classical music for the disco-obsessed era of 1976. Murphy recorded a demo tape featuring 3 completely original songs he'd written, and 1 disco version of Beethoven's iconic Fifth Symphony. Record label executives weren't remotely interested in the original compositions, but Private Stock Records absolutely loved the Beethoven adaptation, hearing immediate hit potential in the fusion of high culture and dance floor. Murphy himself played nearly every instrument on the final recording, demonstrating impressive musical versatility. The label insisted on crediting the track to Walter Murphy and the Big Apple Band because they firmly believed a group name would sell much better than a solo artist. The funny thing was, there actually was another Big Apple Band already in existence. They eventually changed their name to Chic and went on to have huge hits of their own. The song debuted at number 80 on the charts and climbed steadily to number 1 within 19 weeks, staying at the top for 1 week in October 1976. It sold 2 million copies as a single, while the album moved about 750,000 units. The instrumental disco groove proved that classical music could pack dance floors just as effectively as any original composition. A year later, the song gained even more exposure when it was licensed for the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack, one of the biggest-selling albums of all time. Murphy tried to repeat the formula with disco versions of other classical pieces, including Flight of the Bumblebee and Rimsky-Korsakov compositions. But lightning didn't strike twice. He never made the top 40 again. Murphy eventually found his true calling composing music for television. He spent decades working on shows including Family Guy, where he became the show's composer and won Emmy Awards for his work. Not bad for someone who started with a disco version of Beethoven. Number 2. Telephone Man by Meri Wilson.
Thursday at 4, he came and knocking at my door singing, hey.
Meri Wilson took flirtation and innuendo to remarkable new heights with Telephone Man in 1977. The song told the story of a woman's increasingly suggestive encounter with a telephone repairman who came to fix her broken line. Wilson's breathy, playful delivery and clever double meanings made sure nobody missed the subtext. The song climbed to number 18 on the Billboard Hot 100, proving that novelty songs definitely didn't need to be wholesome or family-friendly to succeed. Wilson's knowing approach struck a chord with audiences who appreciated the humor in her risque storytelling and weren't offended by the adult themes.
Hey baby, I'm your telephone man. Can you believe that?
She performed the song on various television variety shows of the era, always with a wink and a knowing smile that let everyone understand she was completely in on the joke. Her performances walked a fine line between sultry and silly, keeping things light enough for broadcast television while maintaining the song's naughty appeal. Wilson had worked as a jingle singer before Telephone Man became a hit, lending her voice to countless commercials. The novelty song represented her one big moment in the spotlight. While she didn't have other major chart hits after this, Telephone Man remains a memorable example of 1970s novelty pop at its most daring and cheeky. The song's success showed that even in the late 1970s, when disco and punk were dominating the conversation, there was still plenty of room on the charts for well-crafted comedy songs with memorable hooks. Wilson proved that female artists could compete in the novelty song market just as effectively as their male counterparts, bringing a different perspective to the format.
Hey lolly lolly, just doing my thing.
Number 1. Dead Skunk by Loudon Wainwright III.
Dead skunk in the middle of the road, dead skunk.
Sometimes a song title tells you absolutely everything you need to know about what you're about to hear. Loudon Wainwright III's Dead Skunk peaked at number 16 in 1973, with lyrics about exactly what the title so bluntly promised: a dead skunk lying in the middle of the road, and the unfortunate olfactory consequences. The folk singer delivered the song with a perfectly straight face, describing the deceased animal's situation with matter-of-fact detail and zero sentimentality. The chorus was simple, direct, uncommonly memorable, and weirdly catchy. You could hear it once and find yourself singing it hours later, much to your own surprise and possible embarrassment.
Dead skunk in the middle of the road, stinking to high.
Radio stations played the song constantly throughout 1973. Audiences couldn't quite decide if it was the worst song they'd ever heard or secretly brilliant in its absurdist simplicity. Maybe it was both. Wainwright's deadpan delivery suggested he wasn't sure either, which somehow made it funnier. Wainwright wrote the song extremely quickly, barely putting any effort into it, and never expected it to become any kind of hit. He later admitted mixed feelings about being primarily known for a silly novelty song when he considered himself a serious songwriter and performer working in the folk tradition. He'd written thoughtful songs about relationships, family, and politics. But Dead Skunk was what people remembered and requested at concerts. The song did exactly what Wainwright feared and hoped. It paid bills and introduced his music to millions of people who might never have discovered his other work otherwise. Some percentage of those listeners stuck around for the deeper material. The rest just wanted to hear about the dead skunk one more time, and Wainwright usually obliged. After all, without that silly song about roadkill, he might never have had a career at all. Sometimes you have to embrace the absurd to reach people, and that Dead Skunk opened more doors than any serious ballad ever could have.
Dead skunk in the middle of the road, dead skunk.
The 1970s showed us that music could be absolutely anything. These joke songs didn't just make us laugh, they became part of the cultural soundtrack of an entire era, reminding us that not every hit needs to be serious, profound, or particularly artistic. Sometimes the songs that bring the most joy are the ones that refuse to take themselves seriously. These novelty hits proved that audiences craved variety in their music diet. Between the heavy emotion of singer-songwriters and the driving energy of rock and disco, people needed moments of pure silliness. These songs provided exactly that, offering comic relief and communal fun that brought people together. If you enjoyed this trip back to the 1970s, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more music history. What's your favorite novelty song from the decade? Let us know in the comments below.